How are you? And welcome to episode 3 of the Temple Bard podcast with me, Jim Wynn, and Philip Noon. Let's get into it. Well, Philip, notions.
So I suppose notions are the Irish idea of grandiosity. You just, no matter what you do, never let on you're happy about the fact that you're doing well in it.
Yeah, you can be successful, but you have to complain that about all the bad things about it. If you start being too positive, that's notions.
I saw some girl it was like a TikTok or a reel on Cillian Murphy's mother.
Right.
And she was basically saying like, an Oscar? Sure, what's that? And you want us to go with you? The acting. Are you still at the acting?
Yeah. You're still doing the music, Phil.
You're still doing the music. How many times have you got that? Oh, you're still at the music,
Still
are you?
doing the music, yeah. That's the kind of Irish small talk. It's the weather, what you've been up to, work-wise, how's your ma, your dad working. The stereotypes that people like go mad about, but there's also always a bit of an element of truth to them. And I think that's because from our geographical place in the world, or whatever, spiritual or cultural, or all a mesh of all of them, there is like a certain frequency that we're all working with. So that's why you notice that some cultures have like a more, we won't go into other cultures because that would be racist, but Irish people, it's drinking and fighting and notions and what they call it, begrudgery.
Well, yeah, no, I think we are a nation of begrudging bastards in a way, kind of unapologetically as well. You know, it's like, It's like as you were saying, you know, what are you doing now? I was singing away. We were just toying with the idea of a podcast.
Oh, you're starting a podcast, are you? I hope it does well. But I hope more it doesn't do well.
I hope it goes well for you.
I hope it goes well for you, but if it goes well,
yeah, if it goes well,
I'll take shots.
But it's like anything, you know, it's like, jeez, he's doing great.
But he's an awful cunt.
Prick.
Yeah, he's cheating on the wife. Kid's a little fucking terrorist. There's always something like, we always like to take each other down a peg or two, but it's an understood thing. I wonder if it comes from oppression, being oppressed people for all those hundreds of years.
Well, I suppose, right, the first time I ever seen it was, this is funny, but it was under 12 Gaelic football.
Right. Best place for it.
So I remember we were all, I'm not going to name him, but there was this one young fella who was absolutely class. He was just better than everybody.
Yeah.
He went on to play for Cavan and everything after that. He was a great footballer. I think he played football. He played football in England as well. He was like phenomenal, right? Same age as me. And like he was class, right? Could do no wrong. But then bought a pair of Predators. When they came out, the first ones.
The notions.
The first ones. These were the first ones, the David Beckham 1998 with the jagged edges on the top of them. Yeah. And I remember
I had a pair myself, so to be fair.
I remember the first time he wore them out, and you could just see even the parents of the other kids, everybody was like, who does this Gawson think he is? Like, even though all you had to do was give him the ball and he'd just go by everybody and put it in the back of the net.
Nah, don't pass to him. He's getting too big for his new fancy Predator boots.
That was it. Once he wore them, forget about it. And it was the same. Once you wore any kind of coloured boots, you were a marked man on a football pitch.
Yeah. That's how it started off. Now it's different. It went through when my oldest lad was playing football. He's 19 now. They all had coloured boots. Now it's gone back with my younger lad, who's 15 now. They all want to wear black boots now again. It's gone back. It's gone around. The cycle's gone around. So when we were younger, wearing coloured boots, that was like a fucking, you don't do that unless you're fucking Cristiano Ronaldo.
Well, no, Ronaldo came out with the pink boots first of all.
Yeah, it's probably because of Cristiano Ronaldo that it kind of became normalised. You know, I think
wasn't he the first one? He wore a pair of pink boots, and then everybody was up in arms.
Like so many good things about football and how it's evolved, but so many bad things. I watched an interview with Gordon Strachan there yesterday, and he was talking about how the media thing has bigged up the wages of everyone in football, but also it's added so much stress to actual people who work in football, managers, and so there's always a price to pay. And I think also the thing with football, I remember when I was a kid, like Man United would have a new jersey every 3 or 4 years. Now they have like 6 jerseys every year.
6 jerseys a year.
A fifth strip, like, and fucking a training strip, and like there's boots. I bought boots for me kids for €120, and literally after 3 matches they're ripped. Fucking load of shite. I've got a pair of boots that I play Astro in that I've had for like 10 years. Black boots, they cost me €25. Not a bother on them.
It's mad. Arsenal released a Jamaican, some Jamaican retro jersey there a while ago.
You're making me some money. I remember, I think, actually, yeah, and pink jerseys. And
there was a Bloods like splatter one that was nice, though. I liked it. But yeah, it's mad. And even I suppose, to go back to it, on Notions in Ireland, I know we love to hate him. I personally love Bono.
Me too. I'm a Bono fan as well, so we're both on the same page there. I love U2 and I love Bono.
I love U2. I love what they've done. Like, even when I go back in time and I look at U2 and was it 89 or 90 where they were on the roof and they shut down that whole block, downtown LA.
Yeah.
Like, to shut down
the streets have no name.
The streets have no name. To shut down a whole block in the late 80s, early 90s for an Irish band.
Yeah.
And it was so monumental.
Yeah.
Like, that's class.
It's a huge thing. All over the world, they say, oh, this is amazing. And Irish people are like, imagine, what about the people who are trying to go to work there? You're closing down the fucking, you're up on the roof singing. Maybe I don't want you to fucking hear. But the notions go too far. Like when they did that thing with the iPod, where the iPod came out with the free album on it, which in a way, like, who cares? You just don't listen to the album.
So,
but just to assume that everyone wanted this album.
But to be fair, right, now this will show my Irish begrudgery, right? Now that you mentioned that, I know off the top of my head, straight away, that was the How to Dismantle Atomic Bomb iPad.
Yeah.
It was in red and black, and they got $216 million from Apple for that. I know that because I remember when that came out and me going, that's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, but they must have paid tax on that, no?
Yes, they definitely all live in a tax resident zone.
Yeah. The person in charge of that whole thing actually is a cleaning lady from the Cayman Islands.
You two have this new iPad. Who's Miss Consuela Gonzalez?
But
Bono, he famously said about Notions. Bono was the one who
Bono,
came out.
Notions. I thought about that when we were thinking about it today. And I remember seeing a talk show in America, it was back in the day, and Bono was on there and he was talking about Irish people and American people's reaction to success. And he said this, that American people see a big house up on a hill and someone living in it doing well, and they say, I'm going to be that guy. And Irish people look up on a house in the hill and see someone doing well and say, I'm going to get that guy. Which is not untrue, to be fair. He can't say it because he's the Notions and all.
Well, you see,
that's not untrue.
But I suppose I'd rather hear from Bono right now. I don't know if you've noticed this on Instagram, on TikTok, and there's a massive influx in young fellas moving to Dubai.
Yeah.
With no money and making inspirational videos down by the Burj Khalifa and down by the Burj Al Arab and all, and driving around in like hired Maseratis and hired Lamborghini Gallardos and Aventadors and all, and they're driving down going like, my mindset got me here and my mindset can do, and then they're turning off their camera and go back up and eating beans on toast in some apartment 20 miles outside the city.
Philip, the grind.
The grind. Now that, you see, now listen, I will happily take it. Even from someone like Jordan Belfort, who went through it, who went to jail and who's probably back on his bollocks again.
Yeah.
But I'll take it from him who actually went through it. Yeah. Not some young fella on his... Please be careful with where you're getting your information, kids. Not some young fella in a pair of Fendi sunglasses walking down by the Burj Al Arab in Dubai telling you how he's on the grind 24/7.
Yeah.
Over here, I'm in real estate. Go away, mate.
You're in a real estate, all right. When we were talking about that there, it made me think that, in a way, I think that kind of culture, as the internet has come out, and obviously we're in an early days of it now still, a lot of these kind of stereotypes or archetypes like Irish begrudgery is becoming less, like it's not as uniform as it was. Like someone like Conor McGregor, who's unashamedly like got notions. You know what I mean? He doesn't. He's notions, but he fucking like.
But we did the same with him.
Yeah.
When he had notions.
Yeah, but half people would say, "Oh, fuck that guy," but a lot of people would say, "Fair play to him. He's doing whatever." So it's not as like. Whereas with Bono, it was like even people who liked him was like, you can't be. This lad thinks he's the Messiah or something.
But is Conor not the perfect example of someone that when he had nothing, but he only had the notions, we loved him for it.
Yeah.
But then when he had the notions and the 400 million, we were like, nah.
That's only Bushmills in that fucking Bushmills with a different label, lads.
You know what I mean? He goes and sells proper 12 for 600 million. Everybody's like, nah, fuck him.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Now, I'm sure there might have been a few alleged factors of whatever, you know.
There's always alleged factors.
I think it was the alleged factors that kind of turned people against him. I still love him as a fighter.
Yeah, I don't like. I'm not a big UFC proponent, so like the way he goes on, especially at the start, I thought it was very funny. But then sometimes now I see it's a bit cringe to me. But also I understand that that's how you make money in that game.
Oh no, like but he was revolutionary. Like
he took that sport into the next level.
Oh, without a doubt. Well, Jesus,
single-handedly,
into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as Conor, as a personality and an athlete, I love him.
Yeah,
absolutely love him. And I think it was kind of just his madness kind of was so publicized, like smashing up the bus. And,
well, that's always the part of it. Like they'll big you up until they have to shoot you down. And it's the same with anyone who gets that big.
But he very famously said himself, I remember him saying on the Late, because you have to understand, like, a lot of the things that were alleged about him were never, now, I don't know anything, but like, you know, he was never convicted of anything. There was never any, so.
Yeah.
So all that, and he even said in the Late Show, he said, they're always ready to throw him under the bus.
Yeah.
And they were always ready to throw him under the bus, so.
Well, that's the way it goes. It's like why Caesar got stabbed. It's the same reason. They build you up until you get to a certain point, and then people want to take over your power.
Fucking Rothschilds.
Yeah, the fucking Rothschilds. Well, that's why the Rothschilds aren't out there on fucking yachts and all. They're like, you know, the people who are really in control don't fucking flaunt it. Don't need to flaunt it. If they wanted if they were driving their brand new Lamborghini, they'd make sure nobody's seen it.
Wealth whispers.
And anyone who did see it.
Isn't that what they say? Wealth whispers.
Wealth whispers, yeah. Exactly. like wealth to like the degree that it's crazy. See the wealth of like the likes of Saudi Arabia now. Your man putting on all these fights and stuff. You can just see that their stereotypical fucking stereotype was like cutting off heads and no rights for women. And now that they're making all these,
probably have to cut that.
No, because that was the stereotype for people.
No, I know. It's just the way you said it. Just cutting off heads. And
yeah, but that's the view people have. I've got a point, so I'm going to get to it. But so what happened was now they can see that oil is on the way out. So now they're trying to diversify their economies. So they're getting into tourism and sport. And people say that it's not good to give these people platforms because of the human rights abuses, which I can see where they're coming from. But I would say this is what will change those cultures. Like when it's the meeting of East and West and sport and tourism, that's what'll round off the rough edges of all cultures, and we'll have more of an understanding of each other. So I see that like it seems in the short term like it's not a good idea, but I think in the long term this is how we become more unified as a planet, as we see that the cultures that we don't agree with their traditions or their laws or whatever, but we're building like these bridges of economy or for tourism or sport, and it shows that we're all really the same underneath, despite the laws or the cultures, and eventually it'll all become one, Philip, as you know.
But can we do all that, and can we still hit Man City with their 10 points?
Yeah,
before
Man City have to get those 115 charges.
Before
Philip really wants it to happen because
can we do it in the next week?
Yeah. If they just took 6 points off them for this season, you'd be happy.
It'd be beautiful. Funny enough, because when we did we did a very first podcast that we didn't release.
It's going to be on the Patreon someday. We've got all of our
notions. Patreon.
Yeah. Notions. The notions of having a Patreon. Well, put it this way: all the stuff that we thought was too not what we want people to hear, too risky. That would be on the Patreon when we get enough notions to make a Patreon.
If we ever have the notions for a Patreon down the line,
that's where you'll find all that stuff.
But the very first one we ever had, we were talking about Klopp.
Yeah,
and it's funny to just see that. Well, it's not funny because I don't necessarily dislike Liverpool, but to just see that implosion in the last few weeks between himself and Salah and everything, that just madness.
Yeah, it's because I look at Liverpool like this, the last few seasons, as this like engine that's running at fucking full capacity. Like they couldn't get any more out of them. And then with World Cup last year, everyone is already fucking been past their fucking breaking point. And then Liverpool with Klopp leaving, and I think it was bound to, something had to give. Something had to give. And I think there's going to be a big fall off from Liverpool next season.
Do you think
Unless
so?
they get, I don't know, like it could depend on who they get as a manager and if they keep any of Klopp's backroom staff. Because I think they'll need to keep people. If they just try and start again with a new fella with all his own ideas, there'll be a big fall off, I think. A bit like when Ferguson left United, I think that they should have kept his backroom.
Ferguson knew what he was doing.
He did know, of course. He knew what he was doing, and he knew he didn't have the time and patience to fucking build another team. Like
it was the old Harvey Dent thing. You die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
Ferguson knew
and how United won that last league, I'll never know.
Ferguson looked around and he just said, "David Moyes, best of luck to you, mate."
There you go. Golden handshake. I'll shake your hand and spit in your face. Well, I say spit in your face. He got £8 million pound, and he was still getting paid till about 3 years ago. So it wasn't that bad a job.
I remember reading Seve Ballesteros, the golfer. He used to say, "I walk up to my opponent, I smile, I look him in the eyes, I shake his hand, and inside I'm thinking, I will bury you."
Seve.
But yeah, so I'd say that's what Ferguson was thinking with Moyes. He was like, yeah, loved you over the years.
Yeah, definitely knew that he was coming to the end. Like that last season when Man United won the league, I think it felt like they were losing every game and then scored 2 goals in the last minute.
You're a United fan. Do you blame Ronaldo for... I still think Ronaldo didn't do a whole pile wrong when he came back. Yeah, I think he didn't do a whole pile wrong when he came back in.
He should never have been brought back in. I think his ego was too big to realise that he had to become like a team player and not the fucking star. And also, I would have kept Ole Solskjaer there. That was the best I've seen United in a long time. It went a bit pear-shaped, especially when Ronaldo came in. Because it changed the way he was playing.
They brought a 38-year-old in who wanted to be top of the world, but he could only be a bit
player. But we were starting to have a high-pressing, high-energy game, and then you bring in someone who's not going to do that. Like, and then all the other things.
Like Marcus Rashford.
Yeah. Well, none of them do it now. But it's like... It changed the whole way that we were playing, and also losing that final. But yeah, I don't think he was necessarily wrong in saying that the club's a mess or whatever. But I don't think his intentions were to help the club. I think his own intentions are he's a very self-centered person, and that's what's got him where he is. You have to be like that. It's like what I said with Conor McGregor. The way he goes on, I might not like it, but I realise that that's what's got him where he is, and that's how you play that game, and Ronaldo plays his game the way he does. What a good polarity between Ronaldo and Messi is two ways of getting to the top in kind of slightly different ways. Ronaldo's kind of all ego, me, and psychopath, and Messi's kind of all team, but still, both of them have done it in a different way. So it shows you can get to where you want to be, choosing either path.
There was a really an incredible book I read. It was called The Wisdom of Psychopaths.
Yeah, I
can't remember who wrote it. I have it in the house, but the most high-pressured, high-skilled jobs, like surgeons, most pilots, are psychopaths.
Yeah,
apparently they're on that level of psychopathy. They're on that scale of psychopathy, especially
they're not
surgeons.
Emotional in the moment, like
exactly, especially surgeons, because if you've got someone's heart open on a table, you can't be thinking if I do this wrong, they're dead. You just have to be thinking.
Or you said heart's beating in your hand, and she's like, "What did she say to me?" That bitch. She never liked me, mother.
But so apparently, that's they have to be when they're in that, because you have to be just kind of your critical thinking has to be at a level of I'm not thinking about this person's life. I'm just thinking about making the right decision.
Like just like connecting the dots instead of worrying about all the emotions that are involved. Yeah, and they say the same thing about CEOs of companies and generals, and that's what they try to make out of soldiers. They try to make machines, which is the only way to do that job properly as well. So we have to understand compassion is like, while as you might not agree with how someone is, even psychopaths, that to them, that's the way they operate. So we can't understand it. Or can we? No, well, our friend Larry understands.
Allegedly.
Friend of the show, Larry Murphy. He'd be the man to tell you about this. So maybe we will leave the psychopath stuff till we get him on. He's going to be on episode 666.
Do you know? like imagine he Googled his name and we came up and he was like, "Is that right, lads?"
These two boys with notions here starting a podcast. I actually watched a film during the week there with Liam Neeson called.
Oh yeah,
watch it?
No, the one on Netflix.
Saints and Sinners or something.
Yeah, it's supposed to be very good.
It was very good. Liam Neeson's he's like this hitman, and he
is it like a Northern Ireland thing?
A Murder in Ireland thing, yeah, and
no, like a Northern Ireland, like up the north.
Nah, well, there's people on the run from Northern Ireland for doing something, and he's like a hitman in another part of Ireland, in the south, I think it is, and he kind of has grown a conscience and given it up, but then sees that to be the good guy in the end, he still has to take a life, and it's interesting. Good film though, yeah, good watch.
Right.
Yeah, good film. Good Irish accents. But Notions...
well, I suppose in Ireland, especially back in the late 80s, early 90s, in terms of music, we've always been fairly cool because musicians in Ireland were cool.
Yeah.
So like the Pogues, Sinead O'Connor, they had this drunken, loquacious attitude on the world scene where drink and alcohol was cool. It was the stereotype.
Well, look at the Irish pub.
It was the stereotype.
Yeah, it's a stereotype.
And then I think it was then U2 became rock stars, and that was when people were like, nah. Like if you were Tin Lizzy, you were fine because he was on heroin.
Yeah.
If you were Horslips, you were fine because they were. I'm not going to say they were alcoholics, but they were drinkers.
Yeah.
You know, if you were these bands, if you were Christy Moore had 2 heart attacks. Christy Moore has said that he was mad on the coke and he had 2 heart attacks. He said that himself. Like.
Yeah.
So even Christy Moore, like the how's it going? Like,
and we go, he's a great lad, but then you go Geldof and try and save too many people's lives.
Wanker.
but then of course, like as soon as I say it, I go, but I've heard so many stories about how he got loads of business interests out of Africa and all this. So already I'm begrudging him, even in my own head, even when I'm trying to talk about the notion. You know, you always hear like, this person said that, and we always go, oh, what a prick. But you're not there when they say it, and you don't know what context they say it in. You take, it's like patterns. Like we all have patterns in our life, and something that we let in that attaches to one of our patterns, and we'll immediately just either cling to it or push it away. And that's the whole story of consciousness, is that we all have these patterns, and there's either things that will stick to us or things that will repel from us. And it's coming to terms with that and starting to notice, and that is how you grow as a person. But stuff like that, like Bob Geldof, like the way he went about it a lot, and he's like, come on, like, God, why would you just throw a fucking tenner in the thing and save these people? Like, he's unabashedly fucking like shaming you into trying to give money for this cause.
But did you know he always did? Or did you watch that thing on Netflix about Heal the World, about the Michael Jackson, or about the?
Yeah.
Geldof was behind that as well. I didn't like. He was over there for that. He
went over and gave them all a pep talk. Yeah.
So like in the middle of the whole lot, like you've got all these superstars, and you've Bob Dylan was in the middle of it, and everybody was doing like their part, and it was really melodic and it was really beautiful, and then Bob Geldof or Bob Dylan had to sing his part of the song.
Yeah.
But he's got such a specific style of singing.
Yeah, out of tune, but
it's
deadly lyrics.
You know what I mean? But it's shocking, like, because he's not a gifted singer. So you had like Stevie Wonder, George Michael,
Stevie Nicks, Madonna, Prince wasn't there.
Prince never showed up.
Prince wasn't there because of his battle with Michael Jackson.
Prince never showed up. Michael Jackson, Prince wouldn't show up because it was after the American Music Awards. It was that night after.
That was the only time.
Lionel Richie. Yeah. Lionel Richie was he was one day
dancing on the ceiling.
and then it got the Bob Dylan's bit.
Yeah. He goes, lads, can I just do my bit after? And he goes, no, Bob, sorry, we don't have the time.
We don't have the time, Bob. You have to make a show of yourself in front of everybody.
Yeah, do it, Bob. Don't have notions. Just fucking...
Every center.
Just sing your bit.
Will you hear this?
He goes, yeah. Will you hear this? Yeah. I only sing deep, meaningful words, not fucking this cheesy shit, says Bob. But yeah, I watched that. I watched, speaking of Michael Jackson and all, I watched the thing yesterday before I went for my gig, which was the State of Neverland Ranch now.
Oh.
And they were saying that it went from...
It's like Blackpool.
The Michael Jackson bought it for 40 million back in the early 80s and then did all the fairgrounds or kiddie traps or whatever your perspective on it is. And then especially after he died, then it was worth like 60, 70 million. And then the Finding Neverland documentary came out and then it was worth 30 million, and then now some lad bought it for 22 million. Sold all the fairground rides, and all across the Midwest in America, there's like Michael Jackson's Waltzer is in this place. Yeah, they sold all the fairground rides, so you can find, and even Bubbles the Chimp is still alive.
He must be about 30.
He outlived Mick. He outlived Mick. Yeah, he's still alive, and you showed a picture of him, and he looks fucking like he's the oldest chimp I've ever seen.
He's on the fentanyl himself.
He's on the fentanyl. He's got the propofol in him every week, going ooh ooh ah. Oh, he's not as bubbly as he used to be.
It was propofol, wasn't it?
It was propofol, yeah. Anyway, what happened was someone bought it for 22 million, and now it looks like that they're redoing the place and they're going to make it into some
Whoever
sort of...
bought that for 22 million was so switched on.
And it was apparently a friend of the Jacksons.
Oh, no, but sure, if you think about it, like, how much would you pay for, if you had it? If you had mad money and you were a Michael Jackson fan, you'd pay a couple of million for a few of the Neverland rides and things like that. Like,
I think there was some sort of deal originally that in the sale that it couldn't be made into a theme park for
like
Michael
Dollyland
Jackson.
Or
Graceland. Like Graceland or Dollyland or whatever. But
Dollywood.
But maybe if it's a friend of the Jacksons, I can't remember your man's name. He's some millionaire, billionaire.
Macaulay Culkin.
Macaulay Culkin, yeah. This is my Neverland Ranch, and I'll defend it from anybody who comes in here. But anyway, what came on after was I went for a shower then and left YouTube on, and I came back up and it was a documentary about the doctor that got done for killing Michael Jackson.
Conrad
Murray.
Conrad Murray.
Yeah. What really fucked him was that after they took Michael Jackson out, brought him to the hospital and all, they went in and found like that all the drugs and stuff that he'd been using had been cleaned up and thrown away or whatever. I'm sure Michael Jackson wanted a lot of those drugs in him, to be fair. Like, he seemed like he was having a tough time. Whatever you might say his demons are, this is a bit about compassion as well. Whatever you think he did or didn't do, he was definitely suffering in life.
Oh, yeah.
And that's with all the money in the world, all the fame in the world.
But if you think about it, so he died of an opiate overdose.
Yeah.
His biggest rival, Prince, died of an opiate overdose.
Yeah.
Prince actually collapsed the week before he died. He was on a plane and he had an overdose of fentanyl. And they had to land the plane, do an emergency landing somewhere in Atlanta. And the following week, he
did the same again.
He did the same thing again, but he died.
Was that, and they say the same thing about Tom Petty as well, that they took like a sleeping tablet that was laced with fentanyl and that's what killed him.
No,
I don't know if that's what happened, but that's what I've heard.
I know that fentanyl now is the growing thing, and it's actually quite terrifying that they're mixing it with everything. Yeah. But Philip Seymour Hoffman was mixing fentanyl with his heroin because his heroin wasn't strong enough.
A lot of people who die of heroin overdoses is because you build up such a tolerance. So what happens is people build up a tolerance, then they come off it eventually. And then when they get back on it, they try and take a dose that they would have taken before they gave it up, and that's what kills them. So.
But heroin's a bit of a mad one in that. Like, have you ever seen like Narcan? People give people Narcan and they just snap straight back out of it.
Yeah.
Like you can be near death. Like you can be just. Yeah. And then Narcan hits these receptors, your opioid receptors, and it just sparks people back to life.
Yeah.
And then sparks them back to life, and then they're fucking raging because they've got no height. Like, some of those videos I've seen on YouTube, right? People are like near death, like drooling and like choking and all. And next thing they get the Narcan and they're all angry with the people that's giving them the Narcan. They're like, "You're after killing me, buzz!" Like,
I saved your life, you cunt. Fucking notions. Another episode that we did that we never put up that will be on the Patreon if we ever get to it. It was all about drugs. All about drugs.
No, we will. So what we did was we did a very long podcast on drugs and on the rise of cocaine especially.
Yeah.
But in parts, I think we may have accidentally glorified it by the comedic value of it.
Yeah.
We're never going to say we either have or haven't taken drugs because that's what we're maybe we will down the line. We can talk more about things like that. But at the moment, with the rise in suicide of young men in this country, and a lot of it correlates with cocaine abuse. Sorry, just the rise of suicide among young people, not just young men. Sorry.
Yeah. It's all mixed in together. Mental illness, which leads to addiction, which leads to abuse of substances, which leads to more depression, which leads to suicide. It's a vicious circle. And, we send our love out there to anybody who's going through it. I can tell you from my own, I've been fortunate enough to have the spiritual experience that I know that it's all, no matter how bad it gets, it's all worth it. It's all for a reason. But to someone who's suffering that hasn't had that experience, that's just gonna sound like empty words. But that's how I can sit with it myself in any way, because I know that it's in the big picture. It's just energy that we're working with, and we're learning through lifetimes just how to balance these energies. But it does seem like there's a big growing difficulties with mental health, and I think it's as well, the world's becoming so much smaller now, and technology's gone we went from horses and carts and bow and arrows for about 1,000 years, and then within 100 and 200 years we've gone from fucking airplanes, cars, computers, now fucking AI. Our own consciousnesses are struggling to keep up, but we'll get there in the end. Is my thoughts on it.
I don't think there's a better way to call that podcast than just there. That was absolutely lovely.
Thanks, Phil. It's gonna guess
he has notions.
The notions of this lad talking about spiritual shit. Fucking hell.
That was lovely.
So if you've listened to this and other episodes, or this is the first one you've ever listened to, we thank you very much for giving it your time. We're aiming to put one out per week. If you've got any ideas for what you'd like to hear,
or guests,
topics you'd like to discuss, just let us know. You can either DM us or like one of the posts. Follow Temple Bard Pod or me and Phil on Instagram or Facebook or any of those
or
places.
YouTube.
Yeah, and get involved.
Get in early before we blow up and get notions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because once we get notions, we're not going to.
Once we get notions,
we're not going to listen to any of your ideas.
You're not getting a message back.
Yeah.
Once we get the goal line.
Once I get my Messiah complex firmly in place. Follow the Temple Bar Pod anywhere you can, and we'll see you next time. Sláinte.